Welcome to the Call to Meat Scotland podcast, where we bring you the latest insights from across the Scottish red meat sector, from the public body that works on its behalf. I'm Claire Taylor, your host for today's episode. Join us as we dive into market trends, brand communications and industry development projects in relation to Scotland's red meat sector, featuring experts, guests, farmers and stakeholders. Together, we'll explore the key facts and perspectives shaping our sector, keeping you informed and engaged with the ever-evolving landscape of the red meat industry. In this month's episode, we hear all about a new campaign by QMS to address the decline in the national beef herd by mapping out a pathway to get numbers back on track. Ian MacDonald talks us through the US-UK trade deal, and I catch up with a well-known face in farming, Crawford Niven, to hear all about his decision to increase cattle numbers on the family farm, and to find out a little more about his popular YouTube channel, Crawford's Farm, and the journey he's on to connect viewers to the realities of farming. First up, I caught up with Sarah Miller. Sarah, great to have you back on the podcast. It's been a busy time with QMS recently. You've had a new campaign that you're going to share a little bit about us just now. Can you tell us what you've been busy with?
Hi Claire, delighted to be back, and it's been quite a few weeks. We've had the Indian FTA, we've had an American trade deal, we've had the Climate Change Committee's Scottish advice, we also had a new Pope, and of course the most important piece in all this as well is we launched our new Meeting Our Potential campaign about 6 weeks ago now, in the middle of May, so I think we're in June now, so the campaign was launched. We did a media briefing back in the middle of May, just sort of updating on what some of our plans were for the year ahead. We also did a farmers launch at Beef Tech, because there's lots of different bits to this campaign. So on the whole, you'll have all seen the kind of modelling that it's all based on, that basically if every beef herd in Scotland put on a couple of extra cows per year for the next 3 years. And that's on average. We'll recognise that some of the larger herds would potentially do more, but if you average that 7,000 to 9,000 head of cows and break that down between the numbers of beef herds in Scotland, it works out at a couple of extra cows per year. So the whole campaign's designed to be quite accessible, and it's been really, really cool over the last few weeks just to hear how it's got people talking. And I think is a real testament to when you think you've got a huge challenge, which we do ahead of us, just how some clever communications can help break it down into something that you think actually is a bit more achievable. So yeah, that's kind of been what's keeping us busy over the last few weeks and months anyway.
And it's an exciting campaign. We're going to be speaking to Ian MacDonald next, who is going to go into some of that modelling behind the how did you get to two cows per herd per year, which will be really interesting. But what's really significant about this, it isn't just going to be about beef producers. This is about the wider supply chain. It's about increasing some of the capacity and throughput at these abattoirs. That's going to have a much bigger impact, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, for me, where I get really excited from, I'm born and bred from rural Scotland, and I know, and because you're the same, Claire, that the rural economy is absolutely built on livestock farms, beef, sheep and pig production. And the great thing about livestock production is you can't just pick it up and take it anywhere. It is rooted in communities, it's rooted in the landscape. So when you talk about economic development and you talk about the potential of the red meat sector to develop the economy of Scotland, you can really see how this could have a significant impact, not just in one town in Scotland, but across the whole country, which is really, really exciting. And I think it's something that when you look at depopulation and where some of those kind of population drivers are coming from, this is something that can help keep the lights on in the glen in the winter. So it's something that I'm really excited to be behind, and I'm excited to see the fruits of, because we know how important the red meat sector is to Scotland, and it for years we've been talking about the challenges of what a declining suckler herd is, and what we want to do is make sure that we are really, really talking up the potential for the beef sector. Let's see it as a really exciting economic growth opportunity, but then make it accessible, because I think one of the pieces of feedback, when you say, like I mentioned earlier, where the demand is likely to be based on population growth, works out at about 79,000 cows additional in Scotland, and you go, God, 79,000 cows, that's a lot. When you break it down, it actually feels more accessible, which actually means that whole kind of, it moves the conversation on into, that sounds like something that's a bit of a challenge, to actually we could all play our part. But the big thing is that it does require, everyone to be working together on this, and everyone playing their part, and that's what I really like about it as well.
And right now, beef prices are very high, and even farmers that are maybe listening that are saying, well, is this going to be into the future? But there's so many other indicators at play that are giving confidence right now. I know you've just done a survey, and there's been a real push for local produce. And I think you've looked at what would that look like. You've mentioned, Sarah, about the trade deal with the US. We're going to talk about that again with Ian. But there is still very much, you've discovered a real loyalty for consumers who want that provenance behind their product.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been really encouraging. And it was really important that we did that work as well, because we want domestic consumers. We know domestic consumers, are really, really welded to domestic production, which is really, really, it's good for not just us to think that, but to have that kind of confidence backed up by that survey work. But the other thing that's really important as well is production globally as well. And actually, where does Scotch beef fit in on that kind of global marketplace? And, we're not on the same scale as Argentina or Brazil or some of the, the massive, massive beef producing nations, but we can produce really good beef well, and we can also produce really good beef domestically for our own market. So there's an opportunity both on export markets, but also the home market as well. And I think that's really important, when we look at that kind of, what are the risks around this? The demand looks strong both home and abroad.
Oh, it's really great to hear the sort of confidence that's come behind for this campaign, and as we're about to find out, this has not been something that's just happened overnight. This has been a lot of years sort of in the making behind this, and I'm sure there's a lot of other nations that are going to hear about this campaign, especially given what's happening globally. Because you're right, there's so many major beef producing regions that are seeing a decline in that production, so the opportunity exists there for Scottish producers, but also retaining that value in the economy here and not leaving that gap open to those imports. I think that is sending such a positive message. And Sarah, I know you've been busy, you've been out lots, you've been speaking to farmers. What is the mood in general right now when you're out and about, and what things have been keeping you all busy on the farm as well?
I mean, we've been doing quite a few rain dances recently, because it's been uncharacteristically dry. We have had a bit of rain just at the end of May there, but and you know what? The nice thing is, if you're going to have a dry year, it may as well be nice and sunny so you can enjoy it. That's been, everyone has, it felt like everyone has come out of lambing and calving, in a really, really positive mindset, because everyone's just had a bit of a slightly easier time of it, and that. I mean, and that's not to say that these times aren't without their problems, but I think it's been really great to hear that, just how a little bit of sunshine goes a long way. Although, like I say, we are needing a bit of rain now, particularly being married to a potato farmer. So I think the really interesting feedback that we've had from, particularly about the campaign, is people are talking about it. It's really got, I didn't go myself, but Kate was over at the Balmoral show, and she was saying that it really got people thinking and talking in a positive way about actually, how could you look at some of the challenges differently? So it's been nice to hear everyone's take on it, and to actually, it gives you confidence that people are actually making people think, which is what it's all designed to do.
And you've got a busy few months ahead. You'll be out and about in the show circuit and events, and you're always everywhere, Sarah. I'm sure you'll be taking questions and responding to any ideas that people have. So good luck with the coming months, as people hopefully are going to get behind this fantastic campaign. Next up, Ian McDonald explains some of the modelling behind QMS's new campaign and what the US-UK trade deal means for Scottish farmers. Ian, it's great to have you back on the podcast, and we want to get stuck into some of the new analysis by QMS, which has suggested that increasing the beef herd by 2 cows per year in Scotland could tackle some of the challenges around the growing supply and demand gap. Could you share a little about your modelling behind this?
Okay, yeah, so I guess it's really a model it kind of came from work that started about 2 years ago, just looking at where the herd was and where it might be going, given that we'd had the major increase in the cow kill over the winter of 2022 and into 2023, and people were starting to get a bit nervous about where supply was going. So yeah, it's kind of a fairly sort of simple model which looks at long-term trends in cow numbers on the beef side and the dairy side, the calf to cow ratios in the census, and trying to look at kind of what the underlying trend is, and then project forward what would happen if that was to continue. And and it's kind of the modelling project kind of grew sort of arms and legs from there, and it, I guess the project is kind of focused on overall UK food security, and so it sort of looks at the supply balance, so where I guess the total market supply, so it's UK production plus imports, and then you net off the exports as well, and while Scotland is a net exporter, a major supplier into the rest of the UK and Europe, at UK level we're a net importer. So that kind of gap is the sort of focus of this project, and it's the kind of the growth in that potential growth in that gap. If sort of underlying trends were to continue, that I guess that's the kind of concern, and it's also the kind of opportunity as well for the sector. And just if you want me to kind of go on to the talk about that gap and the modelling of that, so total market supply is kind of effectively what is available for consumption. So that is based, the sort of modelling there, that's based on looking at the UK population and the per person consumption levels as well. So while if you look at consumption per person and you kind of compare it with 10 years ago based on a 3-year average, it's looking like it's falling marginally, 0.3% per year. The overall level of population growth kind of offsets that, so you get a slight lift in consumption demand over the time period. And then you have UK production, which, based on declining beef cow numbers mainly, offset by more stable dairy numbers, then you're looking at a kind of growing gap between production and consumption.
I've got some of the figures in front of me, Ian, and just sort of following on from what you're saying there. So it says that domestic production is projected to decline by 8%. From 2023 levels, and that's also on a backdrop of UK population is set to grow by nearly 5% over that same period. And you've mentioned there about net imports projected to rise if we don't sort of meet the gap, and that was around 124,000 tonnes by 2030. So how significant is the actual volumes that Scotland could produce as part of that? Because again, these figures, how we sort of break these down a little bit, but the overall, it said that to reach self-sufficiency, which is what really this is kind of aiming towards, it was around 278,000 tonnes of beef, and of that, 22,000 they're saying coming from Scotland, and that is the sort of 2 to 3 cow per head annually. Is that sort of how you've broken that down?
Yeah, so it's a little bit kind of complicated and depends on the way you look at it. So what we've done is looked at where we might be in 2030 and the gap in that point. So the kind of that opportunity is comparing where we might be on existing trends with the sort of the level you need to be at to be self-sufficient, and I guess to be more realistic, we're kind of, this project is based on targeting no kind of increase in net imports. So it's still, you'd still have UK having to import more than exports to make up demand, but it's sort of leaving that gap fixed. And I guess it comes to a kind of fairly realistic level, because the growth target for Scotland would be only really taking the beef herd back to where it was in the mid-2010s. So that kind of 79,000, almost 80,000 increase in the beef herd, it's sort of 80,000 over where we might be in 2030, or slightly before that if you factor in that the cows need to be on the ground before the beef is in the system. So the 2 cows per herd per year, kind of that figure is based on the kind of difference in 2030 compared with where we would want to be targeting. So it's not quite an 80,000 compared to now, it's more 80,000 compared to where we would like to be, or where we wouldn't like to be. I have to cough here. I'm going to need to edit this. Yeah, so the 80,000 target is not quite compared to where we are now. It's where we might end up. So the growth in the herd compared to now works out roughly cows per herd per year, split across the nearly 8,000 herds with cows. That was in the June census last year.
I mean, since we last spoke, just sort of continuing the sort of theme around where kind of our beef production and markets are kind of going to grow moving forward, we've had a US-UK trade deal. And it would be really good to talk to you a little bit about what this could mean for Scotland's red meat sector, particularly, of course, beef. And could you give a little bit of an overview of what the trade deal would mean and what exactly has been agreed within regard to the red meat sector?
Yeah, so I guess the details are relatively thin on the ground so far. We've not had full sight of what it all means. But we've managed to sort of find out some details from different sources and kind of some of our networks in America. So on the, I guess, starting with the offensive side, so potential for UK exports, the deal is giving UK a 13,000 tonne quota for the US, and due to the way the US kind of government system is run, for that to be kind of set up quickly without having to go through their Congress, effectively their Houses of Parliament, what has been done is UK has taken a 20% share of a quota for kind of all countries that don't have a specific country quota at the moment, which is 65,000 tonnes, and is effectively flooded by Brazil in the first couple of months of the year. Since they got access to the US market a couple of years ago. So that potentially is of real benefit to exporters. The challenge there is being able to actually access the US market, and the costs of entering the market are quite high, and going through getting your plant listed, and then actually is the opportunity enough to kind of be worthwhile. I guess if you've got tight supply here already, and European markets are tight, and you've got existing trade routes into Europe which are fairly profitable, then you're kind of going to target that market ahead of the US. But it does leave some potential. Definitely leaves potential, especially as the US market is tight.
And they've waived the 10% baseline for the UK. For that's a win for the beef industry, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what we're hearing from the American side, is that this sort of 10% baseline tariff, which has been put on just about every import to America, that seems to have been waived within this quota. So there would still be a small fee of 4.4 US cents per kilo, which is the sort of within quota rate for all quotas, but the kind of 10% has been waived, and I guess outside of a quota you're looking at 26.4%.
And from more on that, kind of maybe you're saying offensive onto the defensive side slightly, Ian, if the US has been granted its own 13,000 tonne quota to enter into the UK, based on what you're seeing, do you think this could lead to a considerable increase in volumes of US beef, and should producers here be worried?
Yeah, so at the moment, US has a kind of country-specific quota along with Canada for about 1,000 tonnes, which it's not really using at the moment. And then there's also another, seems to be another, there are some other quotas which the US could supply into, which I don't think it does. And it's, according to UK import stats, very, very minor level of imports from the US at the moment. I think it was only about 42 tonnes or something like that in 2024.
Right.
So I guess Americans have seen that their kind of level of access at the moment is not really worth their while to jump through the extra hoops that they need to supply into UK market, which is effectively they need to have a segregated supply chain from sort of farm to abattoir, which ensures that the cattle are produced to, I guess, UK and EU standards. So that means no hormones added to the feed. So yeah, you would need a completely segregated supply chain with, I guess, slower growing animals than they're used to in America, through the farms and the feedlots and into the abattoirs, and it's not been worth their while. Is 13,000 tonnes enough to make it worthwhile? Possibly it's seen as a kind of win for the US side, who've been looking to expand that access for that. I guess it's a fairly niche product in the US, because they have to jump through the extra hoops to want to supply it. But yeah, it's kind of difficult know if that is going to be a major opportunity for them or not, or if they're still going to effectively not really produce for this market.
And they would be focused more on the high-end cuts, wouldn't they, for exports?
So yeah, they're as a kind of exporter, the US really does tend to focus on the higher end. So that kind of is the risk, that if it's 13,000 tonnes and it's kind of higher value cuts, but at a kind of lower price point than here. So even though US beef has become much more expensive in recent years due to their market being very tight, and it kind of had been at a similar price point to us for two years, in 2022 through to 2024. Our kind of price surge in the last 6 months has not really been followed in America. So prices are kind of out of line. And yeah, if they were to ship extra kind of higher end cuts, then, and the quota is based on product weight, then effectively that's means a much bigger impact on the market than just a 13,000 tonne import level, which would be effectively enough to put it in about just behind Poland as the sort of second and third largest exporters to UK.
Oh, that's fascinating, Ian. Thank you so much for giving a little bit of an update for us. And like you say, it's still early days. It looks like it's going to be more complicated in terms of the conditions we met at their side too. So I think this is something that probably be a discussion for kind of months and years ahead as it evolves. But great, just to sort of finish with as well, just going back to the kind of meeting our potential campaign there. Just what would be your message to producers? Just given all the different sort of factors we've been discussing in terms of the positivity in the red meat industry, the demand, the growing population, what would be your sort of kind of call to action, so to speak, to producers listening in?
Yeah, so I think the way that we've got a growing global population, constraints on beef production across the world, then yeah, it's definitely a lot of opportunities out there for producers.
Wonderful. Ian, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you.
For our final chat today, we're heading over to Globeburn Farm in Perth, which celebrated 100 years in 2024. Crawford Niven shares what's keeping him busy on the farm since he joined the operation 5 years ago. Crawford, it's great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking a bit of time out of a very busy schedule. Can you begin by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name's Crawford. We farm just west of Perth, central Scotland. We farm about 1,400 acres. We put down maybe 1,000, 1,100 of cereals every year. We've got 106 suckler cows. We've got 4,500 free range laying hens. We have a farm shop, and then a few other wee bits kind of beyond that. I'm fourth generation. The shop's ran by mainly my mum and my brother, and then the farm's ran by Dad and I, as well as obviously the people we have on the farm, and the same with the shop. So that's a kind of brief interview of what we do, and then alongside it all, I kind of do a YouTube channel documenting what's going on the farm, kind of day to day, 3 or 4 videos a week.
So you've got a bit on, haven't you?
A wee bit. Keeps us entertained.
Yeah, there's so much to sort of delve into there, Crawford. So where to begin? Let's start off on the arable side. You said you've got 1,100 acres that you're running in arable. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Dad moved kind of from Aberdeen and Angus breeding cattle back in the 70s. Grandpa's herd got reduced then, and Dad pushed on a bit more with the arable side of things, and that's kind of progressed. We were just maybe at about 300 acres then, and over the years we've taken on a bit more, and we're now putting down about 1,000 or 1,100 ourselves. We grow a lot of seed crops, so our winter rotation, our winter crops, winter barley, winter wheat, OSR. We used to grow winter oats, but we've taken that out of rotation, and the barley we grow winter seed, malting, that's the spring stuff, seed, feed, wheat is all feed, OSR is for biofuels and pressing locally, and then the spring crops, spring oats for seed, spring barley for seed, spring barley for malting, and I think that's pretty much it. But all that seed we've grown for probably about 30 plus years now for Dodds Seed down in Edinburgh or down in Haddington, and that makes up the kind of arable rotation. And I'd say Dad probably runs that a little bit more than I do. I'm starting to do a bit more on that side, but kind of the beef's my bit that I probably enjoy the most, actually. Dad spent years ripping out fences to make fields more efficient arably, to be ran arably, and then I'm now spending money putting them all back up again.
And you've obviously mentioned that it's been quite recent that you've gone back to cattle. Could you share a little bit about that? It's been the last 5 years.
Yeah, I finished up at uni. We've always had stores through the winter time. So since the Aberdeen Angus herd went off in the 70s, Dad and Grandpa would then buy stores from all the markets round about, fatten them up, whether it was on grass or in sheds. And that was part of the kind of winter routine, I guess, when the arable side's a bit quieter for a lot of years. And then I came back, and I've always fancied cows. Didn't have much experience, any experience actually, with cows or breeding cattle or anything like that, but I've always fancied some. So we went out, it must have been I think it was 5 years ago. This will be our 5th calving this year. Dad and I went down to Stirling Market to an idea of 20 in our head, and we bought 3. So we ended up with 3, and then Dad went up to Dingwall one day and picked up a few more. So I think we had 18 our first year to calve, and that was a good big learning curve. Yeah, hadn't even seen a cow being calved, let alone done one myself. So yeah, I learned a lot that year, and then bought another 20, and then another 20, then another 40, and yeah, now we're at 106 at the moment. I'd like to keep pushing that up and kind of push on to. I've got the number 150 in my head. I've not mentioned that to Dad yet, but it's going well, and we've got the butchery in the farm shop, so it all ties in nicely. And the farm I'm on right now, we bought this in about 2010-ish, and it's a really good setup for a stock farm, but we weren't running it as a stock farm. It was all the arable ground we were using ourselves, obviously, and then the grassland, which is permanent grassland, steep stuff, was let out for sheep and whatnot, and that was fine, but it wasn't probably looked after properly. And since I've come back and we're now running the cattle, this yard as a whole works brilliantly, because we're growing the arable side of things to feed the cattle, bed the cattle. We've got this permanent grass here for the cattle to run on. It suits about 100. Obviously I'm wanting to do a bit more, so we'll have to work around that. But now we're utilising it all ourselves. It's all contained. It's up a mile long road end, so it's away from any main roads. We've built a new shed up the back that houses them all. We put a borehole in to supply their own water because the pressure was low. It's almost set up to be perfect. I'm really happy with it so far. So that's kind of what my focus has been over the last few years, is getting that the beef thing up and running. And it's been such a learning curve. I'm now at the stage where I think I understand all the basics, and I'm confident with the basics. Now you can start thinking about doing things a bit more detailed. So that's where we're kind of heading now.
So you said the 70s you had the Aberdeen Angus. Have you gone back to the Aberdeen Angus, or what are you stocking with now?
We're pretty much all Simmentals, and that was really, why was it Simmentals? I think Angus had kind of slipped away a bit. The size and the shape of them had completely changed. Obviously, the 70s cattle were real short, stout wee things. Grandpa used to ship them off out to Argentina and all that, and yeah, now we kind of went a wee bit more continental. We're all Simmentals, and that, I think the basis around that was nice, kind of fairly easy temperamented cow, milky, and to be honest, an easy one to start with, because with no experience and understanding, really, it's an easy route to get into cattle and safe, and you can learn without making too many kind of big mistakes. Whereas if you go for the likes of bigger cattle, blues or limousines and whatnot, there's a lot more kind of knowledge to be known about calving. And yeah, I'm glad I went that route. And longer term, I don't know where we'll go. We do run an Angus bull. So kind of a lot of stock going through the shop is half Angus. So whether we push more towards Angus in the future, I'm not that sure. But right now we're mostly Simmental.
And how has it been the last few while? Obviously, it's been strong beef prices at the moment. Have you been feeling pretty confident about the next steps? I mean, it's great to hear it's on the podcast. You might be expanding to 150. Let's hope your dad doesn't hear it on here for the first time.
I know.
But you're obviously feeling pretty good about increasing numbers. I mean, what's the sort of thinking behind that?
Yeah, it's good to have a kind of your eggs in a lot of different baskets, and 100 cows relative to the arable side of things, it's maybe still a little bit behind. So kind of maybe 150 is a bit more of a match, and I just really like the cattle, to be honest. But the beef thing is doing well right now, and we're in a kind of a good spot in that we're probably more than 50% of what we're breeding we're using ourselves in the butchery, so we're not having to really work with market prices and supermarkets and all that. We're able to kind of set the price to where it needs to be to make a decent margin on it, and thankfully enough we've got a good base of customers that are like to purchase through our butchery, so we are less kind of susceptible to the market in that way. So we just need to, as we grow the cattle numbers, just keep the butchery moving and keep the volume of customers up. And it has helped the extras going away to ABP are obviously doing well right now, and hopefully that continues. That price has definitely been passed on to the replacements. We bought some replacements 3 weeks ago. We went and bought 16 heifers up at Thinston, and yeah, it's like phenomenally strong trade, big money. I think it's where it has to be based on the value of the stock coming behind them. And if you don't buy them, you've not got them. And in 2 years' time, it's such a long delay. So you've got to commit to it and say, right, I'm doing this for the next 20 years. I'm not just in it for 2 years, because it doesn't work like that with cattle. It's a long-term thing. So just got to keep the foot down, and while things are bright and the finances are there because cattle are doing well, push stocking numbers up. And it's not always a bad thing, because we've got this herd that, okay, more money's gone into them, but it's still, the value's still there. It's not money going down the drain. And a lot of the stock we bought prior to these big increases, that value of those stock has gone up quite a lot. So the value of the asset's gone up.
And Crawford, I know in this podcast we've already spoken to Sarah and Ian, and we've been really kind of delving into the campaign by QMS, which is to encourage to restock some of our levels, because we've seen a declining herd for over a decade now in Scotland. And you're saying you've been up at Thinston recently. It'd just be interesting to hear what's the mood of other farmers that you're speaking to. And I know you're absolutely right, it's a long-term game, so people are making decisions now for years and years to come. And the point of this campaign is actually looking at where levels of production are going to be in 2030 and what we need to do to sort of fill that gap that's going to be there, because demand's strong, because population is rising. We really want farmers to get behind restocking. Do you think that's something you're hearing when you're out at the bars?
Yeah, I think it's just an interesting time. I think it's quite exciting. Like, there's definitely a buzz about all the markets, and people are, even if they're just coming for a nosy, they're definitely coming for a nosy because of how the trade is, and it's flying. And it is a tricky one, because I do think stocking numbers obviously need to stay up to keep critical mass for the abattoirs and all that. So that's really quite important. But it's kind of a vicious cycle right now. You've got for the previous 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, stocking numbers have been decreasing, and the value of the cattle is kind of creeping up, and it's shot up recently. So guys who are maybe 60s, 70s that are considering the future and getting out of cattle and retiring, they might not have someone coming on. This all of a sudden 30% hike in the value of their herd, it's like, let's take the chance to get out. And we've now got a situation where more herds are going off because of the value. You'd think, the price of cattle's going up, there's more money in it, more people are going to dive in. But actually, on the other hand, the kind of older generations that aren't got someone coming, they're getting out. So the chance to get out and get good value for the stock they've got. So yeah, I think in another couple of years' time, I think stock could be even tighter than ever. So I think you have to keep buying, have to keep the foot down, because these herds are going off, and yeah, they need to be replaced. Otherwise, that critical mass is going to be a problem.
I think it's so good you mentioning about it's because yes, we're talking about beef farmers, but you're absolutely right. It's the capacity of abattoirs and everything. I know at the moment we were just saying that we're at about 70% capacity, so we're needing
Yeah.
to start utilizing these other parts of the supply chain now to make sure we're actually investing more widely in the economy. And Grover, just to go back to a point that you were making about, with yourself, it's about making sure you've got eggs in lots of different baskets. And I know that's right at the start of the interview, you started sharing about all the different ventures that you're part of. Your cattle, you said 50% go through your own in-house butchery. I mean, of course, that's attached to the farm shop. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening with the shop, where it is? I mean, a lot of people are going to know your farm shop, but can you share a little bit?
Yeah, so it opened in 2003. Mum and Dad had bought a farm in 99, something like that, 97, 99. And to be quite honest, it needed some extra income to pay off the mortgage, so it was kind of thinking about ideas of how to go about doing that. And Mum always fancied doing a wee shop, and we've always had free range hens on the farm. And my brother he had quite a few numbers of hens, and he would sell the eggs at school. And there was a wee shop. The garage was basically the wee shop. The eggs were there, and Mum would make jams and chutneys. And then Mum and Dad applied for a grant for diversification in agriculture,
Hmm.
and they got this grant, and they built the first version of the shop. And kind of quickly, within 6 months or so, they were needing to do an extension on it, and it just kind of from there snowballed. And it's a farm shop and cafe, and over the years, that's 22 years this year, it's just, there's probably been 8, 9 kind of major extensions over the years where it's changed in size and shape and feel. And the butchery was one that opened in, it could have been 6 years ago now. It was just pre-COVID, and the timing was really quite fortunate actually when we opened the butchery. We were already doing our own meat, but it was being butchered elsewhere and packed, and we always kind of wanted to do it all in house. And pre-COVID started up, and it was there for about a year. Then COVID kicked in, and people were encouraged to eat locally and shop locally, and that kind of really gave a bit of a boom or a kickstart to the butchery. And kind of since then, it's just gradually been growing year on year. So that's where the butchery side of things, and there's the deli, and yeah, it just all blends in hand. And my mum and my brother now run that. Mum's she's the creative kind of, the look of the place kind of person. My dad used to be the kind of organizer, and he's managed to step away a bit more now, and my brother's taken on that role. He's been in the shop probably more than 10 years now, and he's kind of operationally and dealing with staff and kind of logistics and organising it. As it gets bigger, it needs more of that. So
Hmm.
he does that side of things, and yeah, it goes well. It's a steady. You know how it's going to perform throughout the year. It's completely opposite to farming. Farming, it's an unknown. Like some farms might only have like 2 customers. I mean, if we sold all our grain to the one merchant and all our beef went to ABP, we would have 2 customers, and that would be it. Big customers. Whereas like the farm shop, it's loads and loads of wee customers, and you're not prone to like a customer not paying you because you've got lots and lots of wee customers. It's not a risk, and you know how it's going to perform day in, day out. The farm, yeah, it's completely opposite. So they work hand in hand, and they serve each other. A lot of the farm produce we try and put through the shop in various different forms, whether it's the free range eggs. Half of them get delivered locally, and the other half are either sold on the shop floor or they're in all the baking. We've got a bakery in the kitchen.
Amazing.
The oats that we grow get made into porridge. The beef, obviously, through the butchery side of things. So it's trying to just do as much as you can yourself and make it a authentic quality product, really.
And for those that have not been to Goulburn, I mean, 22 years since I think what you're saying, your mum was selling chutney and your brother was taking eggs into school. It's a pretty big operation. I've been a few times, and it's amazing when you arrive, the size of it. But even from the customer experience, if you're bringing kids in, you've got like the animals outside at the door. There's it's pretty huge inside what you're able to do, and you partner with all these local producers as well. It's a great showcase for what we're producing in Scotland and obviously elsewhere as well. I mean, how many visitors are you now expecting annually?
Oh God. I've no idea. You have to ask my brother that one. He's the man with the numbers. No idea. No idea.
I think it's when you're saying, we customers coming in, I don't think I've ever been to the shop and it's not been absolutely packed with people coming in. So what your mum being the creative there, she's obviously what she's driven in the last 22 years has been amazing, because it is one of the biggest farm shops in Scotland in terms of people stopping. And we're at the spot where you're at as well, you get a lot of trade coming through. So you've got a lot of people coming in for lunches and you can host dinners there as well. It's a pretty big hub of activity.
Yeah, we're kind of the location. It was just obviously we're there already, but it was an accident. You didn't really realise the location was quite good. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're about 2 miles from Broxend roundabout, and anyone south of Perth going north has to go via Broxend roundabout and vice versa. So a lot of people are within a couple of miles. So that was just kind of an unknown that was fortunate and landed in our favour. So it's been very beneficial having that traffic source. And obviously we're not that far. Like Perth is a fairly major-ish location of people on the doorstep, and then we're an hour from Edinburgh, an hour from Glasgow, 30 minutes from Stirling, and 40 minutes from Dundee. So it's fairly central to everything.
You'll have everyone now rushing to go and visit, which is good. You've got your good plug-in now, Crawford.
Yeah. You're right.
On the agritourism side, I mean, it's such a rapidly expanding sector now in Scotland. I know you and I have met before at the agritourism conference in Perth, and there's so many farms now that are looking more to diversify their offering for multiple reasons. But one of the things that I see within agritourism that is so fantastic is it's that shop window to the public, it's the communication arm, it's engaging. And that kind of brings me on to the other side of what you do, of many things that you do, is that you obviously are a YouTuber. You are connecting, you're engaging with thousands and thousands of individuals and giving an insight into what's happening in farming. Can you tell us a bit about Crawford's Farm, which of course is this YouTube platform which you are connecting, like you said, 3 or 4 times a week? Tell us a little bit about the Crawford behind Crawford's Farm.
Started in April 2021, so that's 4 years I've been doing it now, and it was just it's a question I get all the time. Why did you start? And it was just I was watching kind of my generation. A lot of people, well, and yours, watch a lot of YouTube and not much television and TV and kind of traditional means of media. So I was watching a few other bits and bobs in terms of farming on YouTube. There's quite a lot of people out there doing it, and a lot of people who have done it prior to me. And I was watching them thinking, I could give this a whack. And that was pretty much the birth of it. So whacked up a video and seemed to do all right. And then just kind of went from there. And it hasn't changed a whole lot. I was going to say it's changed a lot over the last 3 years, but it's not. It's just me doing my day. Each video is just one day. And you see what's going on from the first thing at feeding the cattle to whatever's happened at the end of the day, and things go wrong, things go well, it rains, it's dry, whatever it is, you see what happens. And people have connected fairly well with it, and it's been quite a good source of actually promoting the likes of the farm shop. It wasn't started because of that, but it's amazing how being able to show that the farm shop's there and show a bit behind what's going on and rearing the beef behind it all, and how people are kind of quite like to see the link between the two and then come to the farm shop and go and shop at the butchery or whatever it may be. And I'd say probably about 50% of my viewers are farming and farming minded agriculture, at least 50%. And there's a big kind of group in Ireland, and a lot of these guys, they go up to Scotland on their holidays, or they've got family in Scotland, so it's, when the Irish holidays are on, there's a load of Irish farmers coming in the door. Where's Crawford? Where is he? We're here to see him.
It's great. I've watched quite a lot of your videos, Crawford, and I just love, like, you kind of show the kind of warts and all approach, like the highs, the lows, the mistakes. I mean, you've had quite a few issues of like machinery breaking down, or you're caught in the rain and different things. And I guess if 50% of your viewers don't come from that kind of farming background, it's quite amazing to show that it isn't just the kind of rosy image we sometimes see in social media. Like, you show the kind of
Yeah.
grit behind it too. And it is like, I think you're like half educational, half entertainment. Is that kind of what you've been
I
going
would take
for?
it, I would agree with that. Yeah, half of it is just the shambles and entertaining, and yeah, trying to explain my thought process behind doing it. It's quite good, like soundboard for me though, because I've got however many thousand people, and if I've got a problem, like let's say a tractor breaks down and I'm not sure how to fix it and I'm scratching my head, I put that out in a video. I say, this is the problem, these are the symptoms. Someone's dealt with that problem before.
Yeah.
So it's amazing having that kind of just, I can't remember the word for it, but group of people to be able to access day to day. Whether it's a tractor breakdown, whether it's, I'm looking at a field right now that is just all rushes and wet, and I've just been kind of soundboarding back and forward with, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you guys think of that? And then a few people who have dealt with this problem before saying, oh, you need a bit more lime on that ground, XYZ. And like, all right, yeah, so I do. Bang, bang, bang. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, do you find in general, do you speak to your viewers? Like, do they give you feedback? Do they ask you for certain insights and clips? Are you quite engaged with who's watching? Because you've got 38, almost 40,000 subscribers. It's a big number.
Yeah, I do. There's quite a lot of questions going both ways. I'm asking questions their way, and then they're also asking about the things I'm doing, and I can answer it in another video. Like if people are asking how like my cattle crush, how it works, do I like it? Do I like this bit of it? And it's like, yeah, I can answer the question for them as well and point people in different directions. So yeah, it's you want that as well. You want that kind of communication, and you want the viewer to feel engaged and kind of almost like heard, to create a kind of community that are engaged and follow along. If you just completely ignore them, and it takes a lot of time to, I don't respond to all the comments because it takes up so much time, but I try to, where I can, respond to questions and whatnot, because it is important, I think.
I think that's what I imagine a lot of people listening to you right now think, how on earth does he manage to balance so many things on the farm? I know you've said you're mostly on the beef side, your dad's on the arable, that your mum and your brother are in the shop. So you're obviously balancing things out. But then, I mean, as someone that does videos and editing, it takes a lot of time to turn that around and to be engaged and to get on with the day to day. How on earth do you schedule that time and have a balance of life as well?
I'd say the life balance is out the window. It's gone. But like that this is the life, like all this bit of it. So I don't mind that. Maybe my wife minds that, but it's, yeah, that's the worst bit about it, is that the editing the videos. That takes the longest. The actual filming of it doesn't, because a lot of the time it's like, oh, there's one, I've got a GoPro here and I use my phone, and I don't keep, it's not complicated. It's my phone and my GoPro clamp there, and I just shove it on a trailer. I don't rarely use a mic because that just takes time to set up, and yeah, I just need to get, usually every day, if I get about 30 minutes of footage, that'll cut down into a 10-minute video maybe. So I can do that while I'm working. I'm still able to work while the video's going on. Okay, I'll stop and do a little bit of speaking here and there, but you can still, you put the camera up, you doze cattle, whatever it is, and you're not losing out on productive time really. So that's easy. It's the editing at the end of the day. It's, I'd say my videos probably range from 8 minutes to 15 minutes on average. So an 8-minute video, probably, I could just about do an 8-minute video in over an hour. That would be a quick one. And then a 15-minute video would be 2 hours, and that would be a quick 15-minute video. So that's at the end of the day, just before I go to bed, and whacking that out, and it is a bit painful sometimes. But anything, I equate YouTube to the same as everything else. Like, it's just consistency over time at the same thing, and it works.
And how important do you think it is? I mean, we have seen an explosion of, I guess, like ag influencers, YouTubers in the last few years, which has been really important because there's been a lot more scrutiny on agriculture. There's been a lot more people asking what's happening, and there's been people like yourself and many others that I know you collaborate with that actually show what's going on. How important do you think it is doing what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a political like spokesperson. I'm not very good at all that stuff, and I don't really want to be good at that stuff. It's not my. I don't want to go down that route. But the guys who are doing it and sacrificing the time to put into it to benefit farming, yeah, you've got to kind of probably take your hat off to them, because we don't have agriculture doesn't have many faces that are, or people that are big and can be heard. Basically, we've got Jeremy Clarkson. Prior to that, there's not too many. Whereas I think the growth of the social media and whatnot, and farmers with a bit of a more of a reach, are now able to, and there's quite a lot of them, so combined, share some good messages. The one that comes to mind is, there's two probably. Cammy for kind of this Scottish side of things, and he's good with his podcasts, and he can reach Holyrood and things like that. He's got that reach and ability to do that. He's massive, especially across Facebook and social media and YouTube.
That's Cammy of the Sheep Game, for those that
Cammy
might
of the
not know.
Sheep Game, yeah. And he's a good spokesperson. He's well spoken. He's well educated. He's brilliant. And
I love you saying that he's well educated.
I know. Don't tell him I've said
He'll be
that.
grinning about that.
Oh, you'll be. Delete that. I was gonna say I was gonna call him a swear word, but I better not. And then Ollie Harrison as well. He's the guy down south. Agri Contract. He goes by on YouTube. He's been hammering the inheritance tax stuff, going to Parliament and all that stuff for the MPs, and he's put so much time into it and taking the audience along with it, and he's got a bit of influence. I don't like the word, but he's able to do that. And probably prior to this, I don't know how else that message is properly kind of shared with a lot of the general public. Okay, we're not reaching millions of people, but it's better than reaching nobody. There is obviously the bodies out there that should be reaching them, and they do their thing, but it's always more benefit to have more voices and whatnot.
I think you're right. That's definitely how I would just totally agree with you that there's maybe one Clarkson and he has absolutely millions of people, and that's globally. Like, people are watching, listening, following him globally. But I think in Scotland and the wider UK, of course, Ollie being English, having that collective voice is definitely having an impact, and I'm seeing it all over my Instagram feed. Different social feeds are all collaborating at events and socials and things, and it just gets the message out much further. So yeah, I think all of you are doing a really great job in terms of that engagement piece. But I realise, Crawford, I've kept you for a long time, but I just kind of want to finish by finding out what's next. I mean, obviously, maybe next time we speak to you, you'll have 150 cows. But what's the sort of the next steps and priorities for yourself and the farm?
For myself, what is it? I'm not too sure. I've considered whether I can get an editor to edit my videos to kind of claw a bit of time back. But I don't think it'll work. So I don't know what I'll do next. The farm...
A commitment to the work-life balance, that's what you're saying.
Well, no, work balance. The farm, we're kind of, hens are the kind of main focus right now. We've got 2 sheds of 2,500, and on the egg numbers kind of thing, side of things, that's just peanuts. And it's been an issue because we're needing to replace those sheds, but sheds of that size don't exist kind of off the shelf. The cost per bird ramps up massively when you're down at low numbers like that. So we're just in the process right now of speaking to a few manufacturers of sheds and equipment and whatnot, and looking at the options to what we do next. But I think putting the hen numbers up, it's the kind of crux of where the farm shop started, and it's we want to grow that. We've not grown it for the last 18 years. The numbers have been identical, and it's something we can definitely grow. So that's the next thing. Get the hens all sorted out.
Amazing. And I hadn't even mentioned earlier, it was 100 years, wasn't it, last year on the farm?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm just 100 years last year on the farm, 1924. My great grandpa, he moved in, and then mum's just finished writing a cookbook from the recipes from the farm and the farm shop as a bit of a celebration for those 100 years. So that's out. Well, it's not out yet. It's September. It's officially out, but pre-orders are now live.
Well, she'll be
I'll
delighted.
get the plugs in.
That's good. You've got the plugs in. Well, Crawford, thanks so much for your time and joining us today. You're mad busy. You pulled over to speak to me on a Saturday morning. We've just had the rain starting, so I know you've got a lot going on in your mind. But it's great to hear about the farm shop, what you've been doing in terms of bringing cattle back onto the farm, and the amazing work that you're doing with Crawford's Farm. I'm sure a lot of people that have maybe not checked out your YouTube, they'll probably be heading over. They can do that. Follow you on Instagram and YouTube. That's your two main areas that they can follow you, isn't it?
Yep.
Amazing. Well, make sure everybody you check Crawford out and follow along in his journey. And best of luck with expanding on the hen side, and maybe have you back in the podcast in a few months or a couple of years' time, Crawford. Thanks for your time.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quality Meat Scotland podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen for more monthly episodes as we continue to explore the vital topics affecting the red meat industry. If you want to stay updated with the latest news in our sector, be sure to sign up for the weekly QMS newsletter by emailing info@qmsscotland.co.uk. Join us next time for more insights from experts, farmers and industry leaders. But until then, stay connected with us on our social channels and keep up with the latest news from Quality Meat Scotland.